All right, in this video, we're going to help you get some hints to complete the 6.4 lab. Just to refresh our memory as to what we're trying to do, our goal is to create a table that looks like this using data that looks like this. And the most important thing to note is that the computer doesn't need to actually remember any of these numbers. It just needs to keep track of how many numbers are in each range. So this is the numbers.txt file, and when you get this working right, it'll show up like this. All right, so on this one, we're just going to walk through how would we go about doing this. And I've got my ranges sitting here, and what we're going to do is have a count array, and you can name it whatever you want, but it makes sense since I'm keeping track of the count. And I'm going to, first for that array, we're going to have the index. So our index is going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And when you create this array that has a length of 10, so this is going to have length 10, it's going to initialize the values at 0, which is handy because before we read anything, we have 0 in each range. All right, there we go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start reading the numbers. So let's just take a look at our very first number here. We've got 30 right there. And when we read 30, what we want to do is we want to go into here and change back to my pen. There we go. And I want to go to, 30 is in the range 21 to 30, and I want to increment that and change that value to 1. And when I get to the next number, which is 72, I want to go in here and increment that to a 1. And then my next number is 24, and I want to increment this to, I'm sorry, let's try that again. It was 1, and now it's going to become 2. So this was 1, and now it becomes 2. So how do we figure out where those numbers fit in here? And I want to point out, let's see, I was incrementing in index 2 for the numbers 30 and 24. For the index 7 for 72, and let's just look for patterns. So 91 would go in an index of 9, and 53 would go in an index of 5, and 27 would go in the index of 2. And I start to realize, oh, well, except for 30, that first digit matches up with the index. Look at that. The first digit, 5, matches up with the index. The 7 matches up with 7. The 9 matches up with 9. And, you know, if I go on to 81 and 86, same thing. 81 goes in where I have an 8, and 86 goes right there. And so I'm realizing, except for when they're divisible by 10, I'm looking for the tens place. Well, how do I get the tens place? I can use int division. And so I can do 24 divided by 10 equals 2. 27 divided by 10 equals 2. The problem is at 30 divided by 10 is 3, and I want it to fit in the index 2 spot. And the simple solution is to simply subtract 1. And we'll see that works over here. So look over here at the 21 to 30. 30 minus 1 is 29. 29 divided by 10 is 2. If I subtract 1 from 21, I'm still good because 21 minus 1 is 20, and 20 divided by 10 is 2. So what we're going to be doing, let me just start over here. What we're going to be doing is taking each value that we read, and so we're going to take the value, we're going to subtract 1, divide by 10, and then that's going to be our index that we increment. So whatever that value is, we take count at that place and increment it simply with a plus plus. So let's go through this again. I start off with, and make sure we can read this. So I start off at 30, and so I say, okay, 30 minus 1 is 29. 29 divided by 29 divided by 10 is 2. So this goes up to 1. 72 minus 1 is 71. 71 divided by 10 is 7. So I increment this. 24 actually it's going to be 23 divided by 10 is 2. And I increment this, and now this is 2. And so on until I've gone through all of the numbers and I can create the table. So now the next step is to create the table. And when we create the table, and let's just, we'll clone this for a second. So we'll get rid of some of these markings here. When we're ready to create the table, let's just get rid of this as well. Let's just argue, for argument's sake, let's say, and this is not the actual numbers, let's say we had 5 in this range and 6 here and 2 here and 10 here and 3 here and so on. 1, 1, 8, 4, 7. So I'm just making up data. So what would I do here? Well, first I would have an outer for loop to go through the array, to traverse the array, which would mean that I'm going to print the stars for this row first. Then inside I'm going to have an inner for loop, and that inner for loop is first going to print the label. And when I say print the label, I'm talking about this right here. So this is the label, right? So over here is my label. And I have two choices. When I print the label, I can either use a formula, or it could have been in a string array, or pull it from a string array. Pull it from a string array. So it's really your choice. If you like math, then use a formula to print these numbers. If you prefer, you could have just put, 1-10 into an array, 11-20, and so that you just pull the first string, the second, the third, and so forth. The next thing you're going to do is have another for loop. So the first for loop, or the first thing is to use a formula, and then you're going to have a for loop that goes through, that prints stars, count bracket k times. Okay, so remember right here, that is count at 0, which is 5. It's going to print 5 stars. This is count at 1. This down here is count at 9. And count at 9 in this case is 7. It's going to print 7 stars. All right, so the last thing I think we might need some help on is just look at file fun as an option, as a note. So file fun is helpful, and that was in the notes when we learned about these reading from a file. But you'll need a couple imports. So you're going to need to import java.util. You're going to need to also import java.io. Stars after both of those. And when you do your method, you're going to have to throw IO exception. And then to read them, you're going to have that whole code. That's scanner file in equals new scanner. And all of this is in file input. I'm just pulling it here. And new file input stream. And then you're going to put file name right here, like that. And when you put in the file name to test this, make sure it's in quotes, and you would type in numbers.txt. I think it was plural, right? Yeah, numbers.txt is the name of the file, and it needs to be in the same folder. And then when you go through and you say, okay, while filein.hasNext, so it's going to keep going as long as it sees another number. Remember, when you read these, you want them to be ints. So your int, let's say it's n, is going to equal, and you're going to have to parse this integer. So integer dot parseInt filein.next. So you're going to have to take filein.next, that's a string, parse it to an int, assign it to n, and then you're back up to here where you're incrementing everything in your array. After you've incremented it, then you build the table. All right, good luck.